Skyfall is a 2012 spy film and the 23rd in the James Bond series produced by Eon Productions. The film is the third to star Daniel Craig as fictional MI6 agent James Bond and features Javier Bardem as Raoul Silva, the villain, with Judi Dench returning as M. The film was directed by Sam Mendes and written by Neal Purvis, Robert Wade, and John Logan. In the film, Bond investigates a series of targeted data leaks and coordinated attacks on MI6 led by Silva. It sees the return of two recurring characters, Miss Moneypenny, played by Naomie Harris, and Q, played by Ben Whishaw, after an absence of two films. Ralph Fiennes, Bérénice Marlohe, and Albert Finney are among the supporting cast. Mendes was approached to direct after the release of Quantum of Solace in 2008. Development of the film was suspended throughout 2010 after Metro-Goldwyn-Mayer, MGM, filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy, which caused screenwriter Peter Morgan to leave the project. Production resumed in December 2010 after Purvis, Wade, and Logan were hired, and a November 2012 release date was announced in January 2011. Principal photography began that November after the film's title was revealed and lasted until March 2012, with filming locations including London, Shanghai, Istanbul, and Scotland. Skyfall premiered at the Royal Albert Hall on October 23, 2012, and was released theatrically in conventional and IMAX formats in the United Kingdom 3 days later and in the United States on November 9, to coincide with the 50th anniversary of the first James Bond film Dr. No, 1962. Skyfall received positive reviews, with praise for Mendes's direction, cast performances, action sequences, cinematography, and musical score. The film was nominated for 5 awards at the 85th Academy Awards, winning 2, and received numerous other accolades. Skyfall grossed over $1.1 billion worldwide, becoming the 14th film to pass the $1 billion mark, the 7th highest grossing film of all time at the time of its release, the highest grossing James Bond film of all time, and the 2nd highest grossing film of 2012. The next film in the series, Spectre, was released in 2015. Plot: in Istanbul, MI6 agents James Bond and Eve Moneypenny pursue mercenary Patrice, who has stolen a hard drive containing details of undercover NATO agents. As Bond and Patrice fight atop a moving train, M orders Moneypenny to shoot Patrice. Despite not having a clear shot, Moneypenny inadvertently hits Bond, who falls into a river. Bond is presumed dead and Patrice escapes with the hard drive. 3 months later, due to a public inquiry into M's handling of the stolen hard drive, she is pressured to retire by Gareth Mallory, the chairman of the Intelligence and Security Committee of Parliament and a former SAS officer. However, she remains adamant that she is still useful. On her way back to MI6 servers are hacked, and M receives a taunting computer message moments before the MI6 building explodes. Bond, who used his presumed death to retire, learns of the attack and returns to service in London. He fails a series of physical, medical, and psychological examinations, but M approves his return to the field, ordering him to identify Patrice's employer, recover the hard drive, and kill Patrice. He meets Q, MI6's new quartermaster, who gives him a radio beacon and a Walther PPK pistol. In Shanghai, Bond follows Patrice and witnesses him killing a target. The two fight and Patrice dies before Bond can learn his employer's identity. Moneypenny joins Bond in his investigation, on Mallory's orders. Bond finds a casino token Patrice intended to cash in for the assassination, leading him to a casino in Macau. There, Bond is approached by Severine, Patrice's accomplice. Recognizing her tattoo, he concludes she was a sex slave rescued by a criminal who now employs her, a man Bond wishes to meet. She warns him he is targeted by her bodyguards, but promises to help if Bond kills her employer. Bond thwarts the attack and joins Severine on her yacht. They travel to an abandoned island off the coast of Macau, where the crew captures and delivers them to Severine's employer, Raoul Silva. Silva, a former MI6 agent, turned to cyberterrorism and orchestrated the attack on MI6. Silva kills Severine. Bond uses Q's radio beacon to alert MI6 reinforcements, who capture Silva for rendition to Britain. At MI6's new underground headquarters, Q attempts to decrypt Silva's laptop, but inadvertently gives it access to the MI6 servers, allowing Silva to escape. Bond and Q conclude that Silva wanted to be captured as part of a plan to kill M, whom he hates for disavowing and betraying him to the Chinese government during the handover of Hong Kong in 1997, leaving him to be tortured and end up disfigured by a suicide attempt by cyanide pill. Silva escapes his cell and Bond chases him through the London Underground and thwarts Silva's attack at a Parliament inquiry where M is present. Instructing Q and Bill Tanner to leave an electronic trail for Silva to follow, Bond uses his Aston Martin DB5 to take M to Skyfall, his childhood home in the Scottish Highlands. They meet Skyfall's gamekeeper Kincaid, and the trio rigs the house with booby traps. When Silva's men arrive, Bond, M, and Kincaid kill most of them, but M is wounded. Silva arrives by helicopter with more men and heavy weapons, so Bond sends M and Kincaid through a priest hole to hide in a nearby chapel, and rigs propane tanks to explode. As the house and the helicopter are destroyed, Bond escapes down the same tunnel. Silva survives the destruction of the house, following Kincaid and M to the chapel. Confronting M, Silva forces his gun into her hand and presses his temple to hers, begging her to kill them both. Bond arrives and paralyzes Silva by throwing a knife into his back. Silva attempts to lumber towards Bond, but falls forward and dies of his injuries. M, weakened by Silva's attack, dies from exhaustion soon afterwards. Following M's funeral, Moneypenny formally introduces herself to Bond and tells him she is retiring from fieldwork to become secretary for Mallory. The newly appointed M. Bond meets Mallory, and tells him he is ready to get back to work. Cast: Daniel Craig as James Bond, Agent 007. Judi Dench as M, the head of 00 branch and Bond's superior. Javier Bardem as Raoul Silva, born Tiago Rodriguez, 6 an ex-MI6 agent turned cyber-terrorist. Ralph Fiennes as Gareth Mallory, chairman of the Joint Intelligence Committee and a former SAS lieutenant colonel. Naomie Harris as Eve Moneypenny, an MI6 field agent. Bérénice Marlohe as Severine, Raoul Silva's associate and mistress. Albert Finney as Kincaid, the gamekeeper of the Skyfall estate. Ben Whishaw as Q, the MI6 quartermaster. Rory Kinnear as Bill Tanner, M's chief of staff 7. Ola Rapace as Patrice, a mercenary under Silva's command. Helen McCrory as Claire Dower MP. Production. Development. Development of Bond 23 began in 2009 but was suspended throughout 2010 because of MGM's financial troubles. Pre-production resumed following MGM's exit from bankruptcy on December 21, 2010, and in January 2011, the film was officially given a release date of November 9, 2012 by MGM and the Broccoli family, with production scheduled to start in late 2011. Subsequently, MGM and Sony Pictures announced that the UK release date would be brought forward to October 26, 2012, 2 weeks ahead of the US release date, which remains scheduled for November 9, 2012. The film's budget is estimated to have been between $150 million 10-11 and $200 million 5 compared to the $200 million spent on Quantum of Solace. 12 Skyfall was part of year-long celebrations of the 50th anniversary of the first Bond film, Dr. No. Pre-production. After the release of Quantum of Solace in 2008, producer Barbara Broccoli commented that Skyfall, untitled at the time, may continue the plot of the Quantum Organization, introduced in Casino Royale and continued in Quantum of Solace. 13. In August 2011, the Serbian newspaper Blic stated that Bond 23 would be titled Carte Blanche and would be an adaptation of the recent continuation novel by Jeffrey Deaver. 14. On August 30, Eon Productions officially denied any link between Bond 23 and Carte Blanche, stating that the new film is not going to be called Carte Blanche and will have nothing to do with the Jeffrey Deaver book. 15 On October 3, 2011, 15 domain names including jamesbond-skyfall.com and skyfallthefilm.com were reported to have been registered on behalf of MGM and Sony Pictures by Internet brand protection service Mark Monitor. Skyfall was confirmed as the title at a press conference on November 3, 2011, during which co-producer Barbara Broccoli said that the title has some emotional context which will be revealed in the film. 16 The title refers to the name of Bond's childhood home, Skyfall, and the setting for the film's finale. 17. Casting. The main cast was announced at a press conference held at the Corinthia Hotel in London on 3 November 2011, 50 years after Sean Connery had been announced as James Bond in the film Dr. No. 19 Daniel Craig returned as James Bond for the third time, 20 saying he felt lucky to have the chance. 21 Mendes described Bond as experiencing a combination of lassitude, boredom, depression, and difficulty with what he's chosen to do for a living. 22 Judi Dench returned as M for her seventh and final time. 23 Over the course of the film, M's ability to run MI6 is called into question, culminating in a public inquiry into her running of the service. Javier Bardem was cast as the principal villain, Raoul Silva, a cyber-terrorist seeking revenge against those he holds responsible for betraying him. 24-25 Bardem described Silva as more than a villain, while Craig stated that Bond has a very important relationship to Silva. 26 Mendes admitted that he had lobbied hard for Bardem to accept the part, and saw the potential for the character to be recognized as one of the most memorable in the series. He wanted to create something the audience may consider to have been absent from the Bond movies for a long time, 27 and felt that Bardem was one of the few actors able to become colorless and exist as more than just a function of the plot. 28 In preparing for the role, Bardem had the script translated into his native Spanish, which Mendes cited as a sign of his commitment. 29 Bardem dyed his hair blonde for the role, after brainstorming ideas for a distinct visual look with Mendes. 30 Which led some commentators to suggest a resemblance to Julian Assange. 31 32 33 Bérénice Marlohe was cast as Séverine, saved from the Macau sex trade by Silva and now working as his representative. 34 35 Marlohe described her character as being glamorous and enigmatic, 20 and that she drew inspiration from GoldenEye villain Xenia Onatopp, played by Famke Janssen. 36. Ralph Fiennes was cast as Gareth Mallory. 37 A former lieutenant colonel in the British Army and now chairman of the Intelligence and Security Committee 38 which regulates MI6. 39 At the end of the film, Mallory becomes the head of MI6, assuming the title of M. During production, Fiennes stated that he could not say anything specific about the role other than that it was a really interesting part which is really quite fun. 40 Fiennes had previously been considered to play Bond during the casting of GoldenEye. 41-42 Naomie Harris was cast as the returning character of Miss Moneypenny. 33 Harris's role was initially presented as that of Eve, an MI6 field agent who works closely with Bond. Despite media speculation that Harris had been cast as Miss Moneypenny. 43-44 This was not confirmed by anyone involved in production, with Harris herself dismissing claims that Eve was in fact Moneypenny. 45 According to Harris, Eve believes she is Bond's equal, but she is really his junior. 46 Another returning character was Q, played by Ben Whishaw. 47 Mendes had initially declined to confirm which part Whishaw would play. 20 and later said the idea of the reintroduction was his, saying, "I offered ideas about Moneypenny, Q, and a flamboyant villain and they said yes." To play the part of Kincaid, Mendes cast Albert Finney. 48 The producers briefly considered approaching Sean Connery to play the role in a nod to the 50th anniversary of the series, but decided not to as they felt Connery's presence would have been seen as stunt casting and might disengage the audience. Skyfall also marked the final film role of Finney before his death in 2019. 49. Crew. Director Sam Mendes at the film's premiere in Paris, October 2012. Mendes first signed on to direct the project shortly after Quantum of Solace was released, and remained as a consultant during the uncertainty surrounding MGM's financial situation. It was Craig's idea that Mendes should be the next Bond director, as Mendes had previously worked with Craig on Road to Perdition. In 2009, Mendes saw Craig's performance on Broadway in A Steady Rain. 50 later, at Hugh Jackman's Christmas party 51, Craig got drunk, encountered Mendes, and offered him the job. 50 the next morning, Craig had to explain to Broccoli, "I think I might have offered Sam Mendes the next movie." 51 Mendes was at first hesitant, as the job had little appeal to him, but he did not reject the offer immediately because of Craig's involvement and enthusiasm. Mendes described Craig's casting and performance in Casino Royale as being what he felt the Bond franchise needed. He agreed to direct after meeting producers Michael G. Wilson and Barbara Broccoli, and seeing the early direction the film was going to take. 50 media speculation was that Mendes had commissioned rewrites of the script to remove action scenes in favor of characterful performances with the hope of securing an Academy Award. 52 Mendes denied this, saying that the action scenes were an important part of the film. 19. Roger Deakins signed on as cinematographer, having previously worked with Mendes on Jarhead and Revolutionary Road. 53 Dennis Gassner returned as production designer. The costume designer was Janie Temim, Alexander Witt was director of the second unit, the stunt coordinator was Gary Powell, and Chris Corbould supervised the special effects, while the visual effects supervisor was Steve Begg. All had worked on previous Bond films. 54 Daniel Kleinman returned to design the title sequence after stepping aside to allow graphic design studio MK12 to create the Quantum of Solace sequence. 55. Writing. Peter Morgan was originally commissioned to write a script, but left the project when MGM filed for bankruptcy and production of the film stalled. Despite his departure, Morgan later stated that the final script was based on his original idea, retaining what he described as its big hook. 56 Mendes denied this as just not true, insisting that Morgan's approach had been discarded once he had agreed to direct. 57 Robert Wade later said that Neal and I were pretty steeped in Fleming. I think Peter was more interested in L.E. Care. It just didn't work. 58. Morgan co-wrote The Treatment Once Upon a Spy with Neal Purvis and Robert Wade, which had M being blackmailed by a Russian oligarch, who would be a former KGB agent she had an affair with while stationed in West Berlin during the Cold War. The script would have ended with Bond being forced to kill M. 59 60-42 Mendes disliked most of the script but asked to keep the ending with M's death. 59. Purvis and Wade then wrote a new script drawing from You Only Live Twice, 1964, and The Man with the Golden Gun, 1965, in which Bond is presumed dead after an accident and travels back to London to an uncertain MI6. The original screenplay would have more closely followed the literary series story arc, with Bond becoming an amnesiac and unknowingly impregnating his lover Lily in Turkey, who would have tracked him down to London after he returned to MI6. It would have featured Bond tracking down a Francisco Scaramanga-esque villain into the Andes Mountains, and would have had a Heart of Darkness feel. 61. The screenplay was delayed because of MGM's financial problems. At the end of 2010, Purvis and Wade completed a draft titled Nothing Is Forever, in which a villain called Raoul Silva kills M with a bombing aboard the Barcelona Metro and leaves a bureaucrat named Mal Ender as the new M. They still disliked the third act, and so later revised it to include the ending in Scotland. 62. The final script was rewritten by John Logan, who kept most of Purvis and Wade's basic story. 63. Logan recounted being brought into the project by his longtime friend Mendes, describing the process between Mendes and the writers as very collaborative, and that writing Skyfall was one of the best experiences he had had in scripting. 64. British playwright Jez Butterworth also provided uncredited contributions. 65. Location scouting. In April 2011, Mendes and Broccoli traveled to South Africa for location scouting. 66 With the film moving into pre-production in August, reports emerged that shooting would take place in India. 67 With scenes to be shot in the Sarojini Nagar district of New Delhi. 68 And on railway lines between Goa and Ahmedabad. 69 The production crew faced complications in securing permission to close sections of the Konkan Railway. 70 Similar problems in obtaining filming permits were encountered by production crews for The Dark Knight Rises and Mission Impossible, Ghost Protocol. 71 Permission was eventually granted to the Bond production crew. The production ultimately did not shoot in India. 72 Filming. The Aston Martin DB5 featured in the film. The MI6 building in London. Principal photography was scheduled to take up to 133 days. 73 Although actually took 128. 74 It began on November 7, 2011 in London. 1975 With Deakins using Arri Alexa digital cameras to shoot the entire film. It was the first Bond film to be shot digitally. 76 Scenes were shot in London Underground Station. 77 Smithfield Car Park in West Smithfield. 78 The National Gallery, Southwark. 79 Whitehall, Parliament Square. 80 Charing Cross Station. 81 The Old Royal Naval College in Greenwich. 82 Cadogan Square. 78 and Tower Hill. 83 St. Bartholomew's Hospital. 79 was used for the scene in which Bond enters MI6 underground headquarters, while the Old Vic tunnels underneath Waterloo Station served as the MI6 training grounds. The meeting between Q and Bond was filmed when the National Gallery was closed at night. The Department of Energy and Climate Change offices were used for the scene near the end, when Bond stands on the roof. 78-84 Vauxhall Bridge and Millbank were closed to traffic for filming the explosion at the MI6 headquarters at Vauxhall Cross. 84 Unlike For the World Is Not Enough, which featured an explosion at the building filmed at a large-scale replica, this explosion was added digitally during post-production. 85 The finale was planned for Duntroon Castle in Argyll. 86 But shortly after filming began. 87 The location was changed to Glencoe. 84 Although supposedly in Scotland, Bond's family home was constructed on Hankley Common in Surrey. 88 Using a plywood and plaster full-scale model of the building. 89 The Varda Viaduct was used for the scene in which Bond is shot. Production moved to Turkey in March 2012, with filming continuing until May 6. 1991 Adana stands in for the outskirts of Istanbul. 92 Some Turkish teenagers infiltrated a closed set in railway sidings in Adana, during film rehearsals of the fight on top of a train, before they were caught by security. 93 The train scene depicted in trailers showed the Varda Viaduct outside Adana, during which Bond stunt double Andy Lister dived backwards off the 300-foot, 91m, drop, with a crane on a train carriage holding a safety line. 84 Parts of Istanbul including the Spice Bazaar, Yeni Camii, the Grand Post Office, Sultanahmet Square, and the Grand Bazaar were closed for filming in April. 90 Affected store owners were reportedly allowed to open their shops, but not allowed to conduct business, instead being paid Turkish lira 750, $418, per day as compensation. 90 Production was criticized for allegedly damaging buildings while filming a motorcycle chase across rooftops. Wilson denied this, pointing out that the crew had removed sections of rooftop before filming, and replaced them with temporary replicas. 94 The production team negotiated with 613 part owners of Cully's Beach in Fethai to film along the coastline. 84 Mendes confirmed that China would feature in the film, with shooting scheduled for Shanghai and other parts of the country. 19 Logan asserted that they deliberately sought locations that were in opposition to London, with an exotic quality as places for Bond to be uncomfortable. 84 Scenes with the principal actors were not filmed on location in Shanghai, but in the UK. The Virgin Active Pool in London's Canary Wharf acted as Bond's hotel pool. 79 84 Ascot Racecourse stood in for Shanghai Pudong International Airport. 95 96 and London's Broadgate Tower was used as the entrance and lobby of the Shanghai office building. The Golden Dragon Casino in Macau was constructed on a sound stage at Pinewood Studios, with 300 floating lanterns and two 30-foot-high dragon heads lighting the set. 84 The production received permission to shoot second unit aerial footage of Shanghai from a helicopter loaned by the Chinese government. 84 The first official image from the film was released on February 1, 2012, showing Craig on set at Pinewood within a recreation of a Shanghai skyscraper. 97. The lair of villain Silva was inspired by Hashima, an abandoned island off the coast of Nagasaki, Japan. 98-99 In the film, the fictional East Island is located near Macau. Mendes explained that the sequence was created with a combination of large sets of the city streets and computer-generated establishing shots. 100 The Hashima setting was included after Craig met with Swedish filmmaker Thomas Nordenstad while shooting The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo in Stockholm. Nordenstad, who produced a short 2002 documentary on the island entitled Hashima, recalled Craig taking extensive notes during the meeting, but was unaware of his interest in it until Skyfall was released. 101. The film was later converted into the IMAX format for projection in IMAX cinemas. Deakins was unaware that the film was to be released on IMAX until after he had made the decision to shoot the film with the Arri Alexa cameras, and was unhappy with the IMAX tests made from his footage as the colors didn't look great. 76 After exploring the IMAX system further and discovering that the IMAX Corporation was using their proprietary remastering process, Deakins had further tests made without the process and found that the images looked spectacular on the big IMAX screen, quelling his doubts about the format. 76. Music. Thomas Newman composed the film's score. Main article, Skyfall, soundtrack. Thomas Newman, who had previously worked with Mendes as composer for American Beauty, Road to Perdition, Jarhead and Revolutionary Road, replaced David Arnold as composer 102, becoming the ninth composer in the series' history. When asked about the circumstances surrounding his departure from the role, David Arnold commented that Newman had been selected by Mendes because of their work together, rather than because of Arnold's commitment to working with director Danny Boyle as composer for the opening ceremony of the 2012 Summer Olympics. 103 Non-primary source needed. The soundtrack album was released on October 29, 2012 in the United Kingdom and on November 6, 2012 in the United States. 104. In October 2012, British singer-songwriter Adele confirmed that she had written and recorded the film's theme song with her regular songwriter, Paul Epworth. 105-106 She later posted the cover for the Skyfall sheet music on Twitter, crediting the songwriter to herself and Epworth, with arrangements to both Epworth and orchestrator J.A.C. Redford. 107 Non-primary source needed. The song was released online at 0:07 a.m. BST on October 5, 2012, a day dubbed James Bond Day by the producers as it marked 50 years to the day of the release of Dr. No. 108. The song was nominated for and won the Academy Award for Best Original Song. It was the first time a Bond song had won, and the fourth time one had been nominated. 109-110 A Skyfall also won the Brit Award for Best British Single at the 2013 Brit Awards. 111. The film also features Charles Trinet's 1938 song Boom. During scenes in which Silva shows Bond around his abandoned island, and the Animals' 1964 cover of John Lee Hooker's song, Boom Boom, when Silva assaults Skyfall in the film's finale. 112. Release and reception. The premiere of Skyfall was on October 23, 2012 at the Royal Albert Hall in London. The event was attended by Charles, Prince of Wales, and his wife Camilla, Duchess of Cornwall. 113 Charles asked that money raised at the premiere be donated to charities that served former or serving members of the British intelligence agencies. 114 The film was released in the UK 3 days later on October 26 and into US cinemas on November 8. 115 Skyfall was the first Bond film to be screened in IMAX venues 116 and was released into IMAX cinemas in North America a day earlier than the conventional cinema release. 117. Skyfall attracted some criticism from the U.S. Sexual Violence Resource Center which, without having screened the film, expressed concern that Bond abuses his power and authority in a scene that suggests Bond initiates sexual intercourse with Severine, a former victim of sex trafficking. 118. Box office. Skyfall earned $1.109 billion worldwide and at the time of its release was the highest grossing film worldwide for Sony Pictures and the second highest grossing film of 2012. 119-120 on its opening weekend, it earned $80.6 million from 25 markets. 121 in the UK. The film grossed £20.1 million on its opening weekend, making it the second highest Friday to Sunday debut ever behind Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows, Part 2. 122 It also achieved the second highest IMAX debut ever behind The Dark Knight Rises. 121 The film set a record for the highest 7-day gross with £37.2 million, surpassing previous record holder Deathly Hallows, Part 2, £35.7 million. 123 By November 9, 2012 the film had earned over £57 million to surpass The Dark Knight Rises as the highest grossing film of 2012, and the highest grossing James Bond film of all time in the UK. 124. After 40 days of release the total UK gross stood at £94.28 million, making Skyfall the highest grossing film in the UK, surpassing the £94.03 million of Avatar. 125 By December 30, 2012, it had become the first film to gross more than £100 million, $161.6 million, in the UK. That same day, the film also crossed the $1 billion milestone worldwide, making it only the 14th film and first Bond film to do so. 126 It was also the 7th highest grossing film ever made at the time, pushing it past the inflation-adjusted amount of $1.047 billion earned by Thunderball. 127-128. Daniel Craig, Javier Bardem, and Bérénice Marlohe in Paris at the film's French premiere, October 2012. Skyfall set an opening weekend record in Switzerland, $5.3 million, and recorded the second largest opening weekend of the year for a Hollywood film in India, $5.1 million, as well as grossing $14.3 million on its opening weekend in France. 129 In Austria, it achieved the second highest opening weekend ever, $3.4 million, behind The Lord of the Rings, The Return of the King, while in Finland, it scored the largest opening weekend when excluding previews, $1.47 million. 130. In North America, the film opened in 3,505 cinemas, the widest opening for a Bond film. 131 The film earned $2.4 million from midnight showings on its opening day and a further $2.2 million from IMAX and large format cinemas. 131 Skyfall went on to gross $30.8 million on its opening day in the US and Canada, 132 and $88.4 million in its opening weekend, the biggest debut yet for a Bond film. 133 By the end of its theatrical run, the film earned $304.4 million in the United States and Canada, making it the fourth highest grossing film of 2012 in these regions. 134. Critical response. Skyfall received generally positive reviews from critics and fans, according to the Global Post. 135 On review aggregator website Rotten Tomatoes, the film received an approval rating of 92% based on 384 reviews, with an average rating of 8.20/10. The site's critical consensus reads, Sam Mendes brings Bond surging back with a smart, sexy, riveting action thriller that qualifies as one of the best 007 films to date. 136. On Metacritic, the film has a weighted average score of 81 out of 100 based on 49 critics, indicating universal acclaim. 137 CinemaScore polls reported that the average grade filmgoers gave the film was an A on an A+ to F scale. 138. A number of critics, including Kate Muir, reviewing for The Times, Philip French, writing in The Observer, IGN's Daniel Krupa and the reviewers for The Irish Independent and The Daily Record, all asked whether Skyfall was the best Bond film. 139. The Daily Telegraph's film reviewer, Robbie Collin, considered Skyfall to be often dazzling, always audacious, 31 with excellent action sequences in a film that contained humor and emotion. 31. Todd McCarthy of The Hollywood Reporter thought that Skyfall was dramatically gripping while still brandishing a droll undercurrent of humor, 2 going on to say that it was a film that had some weight and complexity to it. 2. Variety's Peter DeBrugge suggested that the film's greatest strength lay in its willingness to put as much focus on characterization as it did action set pieces, allowing the two to coexist rather than compete for the audience's attention. 140. While Manala Dargis, reviewing for the New York Times, considered Skyfall to be a superior follow-up to Casino Royale. 141. Which is opulent rather than outlandish and insistently, progressively low-key. 141. Kim Newman, reviewing the film for Empire, concluded, Skyfall is pretty much all you could want from a 21st century Bond, cool but not camp, respectful of tradition but up to the moment, serious in its thrills and relatively complex in its characters but with the sense of fun that hasn't always been evident lately. 142. Roger Ebert of the Chicago Sun-Times gave the film 4 out of 4 stars, describing it as a full-blooded, joyous, intelligent celebration of a beloved cultural icon. 143. Reviewing for The New Statesman, Ryan Gilbey saw that nostalgia permeates the movie, 144 going on to say that sometimes the old ways are the best. 144. A number of reviewers praised Daniel Craig's lead performance. Roger Ebert believed that in Skyfall, Daniel Craig takes full possession of a role he earlier played well in Casino Royale, not so well in Quantum. 143. Philip French commented that Craig manages to get out of the shadow of Sean Connery. 145. While Daniel Krupa thought Craig's Bond was a defining performance for a great actor. 146. Edward Porter, writing in the Sunday Times, considered that Craig has developed an authoritative Bond persona, dry and intelligent. 147. Ryan Gilbey thought Craig had relaxed into Bond without losing any steeliness. 144. The supporting cast also received praise. Roger Ebert reflected that Skyfall at last provides a role worthy of Judi Dench, one of the best actors of her generation. She is all but the co-star of the film, with a lot of screen time, poignant dialogue, and a character who is far more complex and sympathetic than we expect in this series. 143. Jenny McCartney, writing in the Sunday Telegraph, agreed, describing Dench as compellingly luminous in the film, and the one that the camera caresses most meaningfully and often. 148. McCartney thought Javier Bardem played Silva with worrisome ela, 148. While Henry K. Miller considered his character the most authentically Bondian Bond villain in decades. 149. A number of critics noted the strength of the supporting cast. Kim Newman found the warmth and gravitas of Finney's performance noteworthy. 142. While other reviewers, including Edward Porter, Daniel Krupa, and the playlist's Oliver Littleton, singled out Ralph Fiennes as Mallory and Ben Whishaw as Q. 150. Ann Hornaday, writing for The Washington Post, thought Sam Mendes had reinvigorated the series, with Skyfall being sleek, crisp, classy, exhibiting just the right proportion of respect for legacy and embrace of novelty. 151. Henry K. Miller of Sight and Sound agreed, and praised Mendes, who he thought was worthy of directing more Bond films. 149. Kim Newman also praised Mendes's direction of the action sequences. 142. The work of cinematographer Roger Deakins also received praise, Newman commented that he delivers the most impressive visuals the series has had since the 1960s, 142, and Miller described the film as dazzlingly photographed. 149. The film did not escape criticism, with reviews pointing to its 2.5-hour running time, and the final third of the film being protracted, and not matching the first two-thirds in its momentum as the underlying flaws in the film. 152-153 Zan Brooks of The Guardian, in an otherwise positive review, criticized the touchy-feely indulgence of the bold decision to open Bond up, to probe at the character's backstory and raise a toast to his relationship with M. 154 Daniel Krupa also singled out Naomie Harris as awkward and having virtually non-existent chemistry with Craig. 146 Similarly, Philip French in The Observer tempered his praise for the film by highlighting some lazy repetition and argued, "The badinage is often perfunctory and Bond is as usual captured too easily and too easily escapes." 145 Edward Porter, writing in the Sunday Times, considered that while aspects of the film were achieved with wit and panache, 147 he found that the climax to the film was slightly disappointing, although the weaknesses in the final stages are not serious, however, and the film's brief epilogue is wonderful. 147. In 2025, The Hollywood Reporter listed Skyfall as having the best stunts of 2012. 155. Home media. The UK DVD release of Skyfall was advertised by a train covered in 007 vinyls. Citation needed. Skyfall was released on DVD, Blu-ray and digital HD in the US and Canada on 12 February 2013 156 and in the UK on February 18, 2013 by 20th Century Fox Home Entertainment and MGM Home Entertainment. 157 It was later released on Ultra HD Blu-ray on October 22, 2019 along with the other three Daniel Craig Bond movies in a box set, and individually on February 25, 2020. Accolades. Main article, list of accolades received by Skyfall. At the 85th Academy Awards, Skyfall received nominations for Best Cinematography, Best Original Score, and Best Sound Mixing, and won Best Original Song, the first Bond theme to be so honored, and Best Sound Editing. 158 The film's other nominations include 8 British Academy Film Awards, winning 2, 159 7 Critics' Choice Movie Awards, winning 3, 161 and a Golden Globe Award, which it won. Daniel Rawton Craig, Craig one born March 2, 1968, is an English actor. His accolades include 2 National Board of Review Awards, in addition to nominations for a Primetime Emmy Award, a British Academy Film Award, and 3 Golden Globe Awards. After training at the National Youth Theatre in London and graduating from the Guildhall School of Music and Drama in 1991, Craig began his career on stage. He began acting with the drama The Power of One, 1992, and had his breakthrough role in the drama serial Our Friends in the North, 1996. He gained prominence for his supporting roles in films such as Elizabeth, 1998, Lara Croft, Tomb Raider, 2001, Road to Perdition, 2002, Layer Cake, 2004, and Munich, 2005. Global stardom came from his portrayal of secret agent James Bond in the action film Casino Royale, 2006, for which he was nominated for the BAFTA Award for Best Actor in a Leading Role. He reprised the role in 4 subsequent installments of the Bond franchise: Quantum of Solace, 2008, Skyfall, 2012, Spectre, 2015, and No Time to Die, 2021. 2-3. In addition to a number of other film roles, Craig gained further recognition for narrating the documentary One Life, 2011, for which he was nominated for the Primetime Emmy Award for Outstanding Narrator. He also starred as Detective Benoit Blanc in the Knives Out series, 2019, present, and a gay man in the period romance Queer, 2024, all three earned him nominations for the Golden Globe Award for Best Actor. His other films include the fantasy The Golden Compass, 2007, the drama Defiance, 2008, the science fiction western Cowboys and Aliens, 2011, the mystery thriller The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo, 2011, and the heist film Logan Lucky, 2017. On stage, Craig starred in the Royal National Theatre's production of Angels in America, 1993, on the West End. He made his Broadway debut in the play A Steady Rain, 2009, and returned to Broadway in the revivals of Harold Pinter's Betrayal, 2011, and William Shakespeare's Macbeth, 2022. He starred as Iago in the New York Theatre Workshop production of Othello, 2016. Early life and education. Daniel Rawton Craig was born on March 2, 1968 in Chester, Cheshire, to an art teacher, Carol Olivia, née Williams, and Timothy John Rawton Craig, a midshipman in the Merchant Navy and steel erector. His father later became the landlord of two Cheshire pubs, the Ring o' Bells in Frodsham and the Boot Inn in Tarporley. Craig has an older sister named Lee, born 1965, 5, and a younger half-brother named Harry, 1991. 6. He is of part Welsh and distant French descent, counting the French Huguenot minister Daniel Chamier and Sir William Burnaby, 1st Baronet, among his ancestors. His middle name, Rawton, comes from his great-great-grandmother, Grace Matilda Rawton. 7. When Craig's parents divorced in 1972, he and his sister moved to the Wirral Peninsula with their mother, where he attended primary school in Hoylake as well as school in Frodsham. He attended Hillbury High School in West Kirby. Upon leaving there at the age of 16, he attended Calday Grange Grammar School as a sixth form student. 8. He played rugby union for Hoylake RFC. 9. Craig began acting in school plays at the age of 6, making his debut in the Frodsham Primary School production of Oliver. He became interested in serious acting by attending Liverpool's Everyman Theatre with his mother. At the age of 14 in 1982, he played roles in Romeo and Juliet and Cinderella at Hillbury High School. In 1984, he was accepted into the National Youth Theatre and moved to London, where he worked part-time in restaurants to finance his education. His parents watched his stage debut as Agamemnon in Troilus and Cressida. He performed with the National Youth Theatre on tours to Valencia and Moscow under the leadership of director Edward Wilson. He entered the Guildhall School of Music and Drama in 1988, and graduated in 1991 after a 3-year course under the tutelage of Colin McCormick, an actor from the Royal Shakespeare Company. 5. Career. 1992 to 2005, early roles and breakthrough. Craig with producer Michael G. Wilson in June 2006, filming Casino Royale. Craig appeared in his first screen role in 1992, playing an Afrikaner in The Power of One. 10. Having played minor roles in the miniseries Anglo-Saxon Attitudes and the shows Covington Cross and Boone, he appeared in November 1993 as Joe in the Royal National Theatre's production of Tony Kushner's Angels in America. 11, 12, 13, 14. Also in 1993, Craig was featured in 2 episodes of the American television shows Zorro and George Lucas's The Young Indiana Jones Chronicles 15, 16, 17 and British shows Heartbeat, in which he played Peter Begg, Between the Lines, Drop the Dead Donkey and Sharp's Eagle. 18, 19, 20, 21. In 1994, Craig appeared in The Rover, a filmed stage production, and Les Grandes Horizontales, a stage production at the National Theatre Studio, where he first met Rachel Weisz, who would become his second wife. 22, 23, 24. Craig was featured in the poorly received Disney film A Kid in King Arthur's Court, 1995. 25, 26. In 1996, Craig starred in the BBC drama serial Our Friends in the North as the troubled George Geordie Peacock. Appearing alongside Christopher Eccleston, Gina McKee, and Mark Strong, Craig's part in the series is considered his breakthrough role. 27-28. In the same year, Craig guest starred in an episode of the HBO horror anthology series Tales from the Crypt and was featured in the BBC television film Saint X. 29-30. Craig gave a lead performance in the Franco-German drama Obsession in 1997, about a love triangle between Craig's character and a couple. 31. The same year, he played a leading role in Hurly Burly, a play performed in the West End at the Old Vic. 32. Craig appeared in 3 films in 1998, the independent drama Love and Rage. 33. The biographical drama Elizabeth, in which he played Jesuit priest John Ballard, who was executed for being involved in the Babington plot, an attempt to assassinate Queen Elizabeth I of England. 23-34. And the BBC television film Love is the Devil, Study for a Portrait of Francis Bacon, 1998, in which Craig played small-time thief George Dyer, who becomes the lover and muse of painter Francis Bacon, who was portrayed by Derek Jacobi. 35. The following year, Craig starred in a television drama called Shockers, The Visitor, and as Sergeant Telford Winter in the independent war film The Trench, which takes place in the confines of the trenches in the First World War during the 48 hours leading up to the Battle of the Somme. 36-37. Craig played a schizophrenic man who falls in love with a woman, played by Kelly MacDonald, after being discharged from psychiatric hospital in the drama Some Voices, 2000. 38-39. Also in 2000, Craig co-starred alongside Toni Collette in the dark comedy Hotel Splendide and was featured in I Dreamed of Africa, based on the life of Kooky Gall Man, played by Kim Basinger. 40-41. Craig played the love interest of Angelina Jolie's character Lara Croft in Lara Croft, Tomb Raider, 2001, based on the video game series Tomb Raider. 42. He later admitted to having taken on the role in the poorly reviewed yet commercially successful film Only for the Money. 43. In 2001, Craig also starred in the 4-part Channel 4 drama Sword of Honor, based on the trilogy of novels of the same. 44. Craig appeared in the anthology film 10 Minutes Older, The Cello, 2002, starring in the segment Addicted to the Stars, directed by Michael Radford. 45-46. His second release of 2002 was Sam Mendes' crime film Road to Perdition with Tom Hanks and Paul Newman, in which he played Irish mobster Conor Rooney, the son of the crime organization's boss. 47-48. Craig then portrayed German theoretical physicist Werner Heisenberg in the BBC television drama Copenhagen, 2002, which depicts Heisenberg's involvement in the German nuclear weapon project during World War II. 49-50. On stage, Craig starred opposite Michael Gambon in the original production of Carol Churchill's play A Number from September to November 2002 at the Royal Court Theatre. 51-52. Craig received a London Evening Standard Theatre Award for Best Actor nomination for his role as a man who is cloned twice by his father. 53. The next year, he starred as poet Ted Hughes opposite Gwyneth Paltrow as Sylvia Plath in the biographical film Sylvia, 2003, which depicts the romance between the two poets. 54. In the same year, he appeared in The Mother as a man who engages in an affair with the much older mother, played by Anne Reid, of his lover and best friend. 55-56. The crime thriller Layer Cake, directed by Matthew Vaughn, starred Craig as an unnamed London-based cocaine supplier known only as XXXX in the film's credits. 57. Kevin Crust, writing for the Los Angeles Times, praised Craig's stunningly suave performance, while Roger Ebert thought he was fascinating in the film. 58-59. Craig next starred as a man who is stalked by a stranger, played by Rhys Ifans, after they witness a deadly accident together in Enduring Love, 2004. 60-61. Craig appeared in 3 theatrical films in 2005, all of which were supporting roles. His first release of the year was the thriller The Jacket starring Adrian Brody and Keira Knightley. 62-63. He then made a brief appearance in the Hungarian film Fateless as a United States Army sergeant who takes a liking to a teenage boy who survives life in concentration camps. 64-65 Craig's third and final role of the year was in Munich, directed by Steven Spielberg, as a South African driver who is a part of a covert Israeli government assassination mission against 11 Palestinians allegedly involved in the Munich massacre at the 1972 Summer Olympics. 66-67 Also in 2005, Craig starred in the BBC television film Archangel, based on Robert Harris's novel, as an English academic who stumbles upon a notebook believed to have belonged to Joseph Stalin. 68-69. 2006 to 2021, James Bond and worldwide recognition. Craig at the Quantum of Solace film premiere in New York in November 2008. According to various sources, Eon Productions had become aware of Craig and begun to consider him as a future Bond candidate because of Our Friends in the North in 1996-70 or Elizabeth in 1998. 71. In 2004, Craig first met longtime Bond co-producer Barbara Broccoli at the funeral of casting director Mary Selway, who had cast Craig in Love is the Devil. 71 Broccoli asked Craig to join her for a cup of tea at Eon's Piccadilly office, and offered him the role of James Bond. 71 Initially, he was unsure about the role and was resistant to the producer's overtures. There was a period of trying to woo him, Broccoli later commented in 2012. 70 During this period, Craig sought advice from colleagues and friends, of whom most of us said to him, "There is life after Bond." 72 He asked Pierce Brosnan at an event for advice and Brosnan told him, "Go for it. Just go for it." 71. He stated he was aware of the challenges of the Bond franchise, which he considered a big machine that makes a lot of money. He aimed at bringing more emotional depth to the character. 73 Born in 1968, Craig is the first actor to portray James Bond to have been born after the Bond series started and after the death of Ian Fleming, the novel's writer. Craig's casting as Bond caused some controversy due to his physical appearance. Some fans considered the blonde-haired, 5 foot 10 inch tall, 1.78 m, Craig to not fit the image of the taller, dark-haired Bond portrayed by the previous actors. 74 Throughout the entire production period, internet campaigns expressed their dissatisfaction and threatened to boycott the film in protest. 75 Although the choice of Craig was controversial, numerous actors publicly voiced their support. Most notably 4 of the 5 actors who had previously portrayed Bond, Sean Connery, Roger Moore, Pierce Brosnan, and Timothy Dalton, called his casting a good decision. 76-77 Connery notably shared his thoughts on Craig's casting as Bond in 2008, describing him as fantastic, marvelous in the part. The other actor to have previously played Bond, George Lazenby, has since voiced his approval of Craig, as well. 78 Clive Owen, who had been linked to the role, also spoke in defense of Craig. 79. The first film, Casino Royale, premiered on November 14, 2006, and grossed $594,239,066 worldwide, which made it the highest-grossing Bond film until the release of Skyfall. 80 After the film was released, Craig's performance garnered critical acclaim. 81-82 Craig lent his voice and likeness as James Bond for both the Wii game GoldenEye 007, an enhanced remake of the 1997 game for the Nintendo 64, and James Bond 007, Bloodstone. 83 In addition to Casino Royale, Craig also appeared in 2 more films in 2006, the drama infamous as mass murderer Perry Edward Smith and as the voice of the lead character in the English-language version of the French animated film Renaissance. 84-85-86 In 2006, Craig was invited to join the Academy of Motion Picture Arts and Sciences. 87. Craig starred opposite Nicole Kidman in the science fiction horror film The Invasion in 2007, the 4th film adaptation of the novel The Body Snatchers by Jack Finney, which was met with a negative reception. 88 He portrayed Lord Asriel in The Golden Compass, the 2007 film adaptation of Philip Pullman's novel. 89-90 In March 2007, Craig made a cameo appearance as himself in a sketch with Catherine Tate, who appeared in the guise of her character Elaine Figgis from The Catherine Tate Show. The sketch was made for the BBC Red Nose Day 2007 fundraising program. 91 In 2008, in addition to Quantum of Solace and its accompanying video game, Craig starred in the drama Flashbacks of a Fool alongside Emilia Fox, as a washed-up Hollywood actor who reflects on his life. Although the film was received negatively, Craig's performance was praised. 92-93 In his final release of 2008, the war film Defiance, Craig starred as Tuvia Bielski, the leader of the Bielski partisans, fighting in the forests of Belarus during World War II, saving 1,200 people. 94. Wax statue of Craig as James Bond at Madame Tussauds in London. He co-starred with Hugh Jackman in a limited engagement of the drama A Steady Rain, on Broadway, which played in autumn 2009 at the Schoenfeld Theatre, for which he gained positive reviews. 95-96 In August 2010, Craig starred as crusading journalist Mikael Blomkvist in David Fincher's 2011 adaptation of Stieg Larsson's novel The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo. 97-98 The next year, he took up a leading role in Dream House, a psychological thriller directed by Jim Sheridan and co-starring Rachel Weisz, Naomi Watts, and Martin Xokas. 99 It garnered mostly negative reviews and low box office results. Craig then co-starred with Harrison Ford and Olivia Wilde in Cowboys and Aliens, an American science fiction western film, based on Scott Mitchell Rosenberg's 2006 graphic novel of the same name. 100-101 The same year, Craig provided his voice to Steven Spielberg's animated film The Adventures of Tintin in 2011, playing the villainous pirate Ivan Ivanovich Sakharine and his ancestor Red Rackham in a dual role. 102-103. The planned April 19, 2010 release of Craig's third Bond film was delayed, because of financial troubles. The film, titled Skyfall, was eventually released on October 23, 2012. 104-105 The same year, he appeared as James Bond in the short film Happy and Glorious, in which he escorted Queen Elizabeth II to the 2012 Summer Olympics opening ceremony. 106-107 He and his wife Weisz starred in a Broadway play titled Betrayal, which ran from October 2013 to January 2014. 108-109 Despite mixed reviews, it grossed $17.5 million, becoming the second highest earning Broadway play of 2013. 110 Craig's fourth Bond film, Spectre, began filming in December 2014 and was released on October 26, 2015. His first four Bond films have grossed $3.5 billion globally, after adjusting for inflation. 111. Prior to the inaugural Invictus Games held in London in September 2014, Craig, along with other entertainers and athletes, read the poem Invictus in a promotional video. 112 He made an uncredited cameo appearance as a stormtrooper in the 2015 film Star Wars: The Force Awakens. 113-114 Craig appeared in a modern production of William Shakespeare's tragedy Othello at the off-Broadway New York Theatre Workshop throughout late 2016 and early 2017. The production starred David Oyelowo as the titular character and Craig as the main antagonist, Iago. 115 Diane Snyder of the Daily Telegraph praised his chilling portrayal of Iago in the play. 115. In 2017, Craig co-starred in Steven Soderbergh's comedy Logan Lucky, about two brothers who pull off a heist during a NASCAR race. 116-117 Craig starred alongside Halle Berry in the drama King set during the 1992 Los Angeles riots. The film premiered in September 2017 and was distributed by The Orchard the following year. 118 In 2019, Craig starred in Rian Johnson's black comedy murder mystery Knives Out as Benoit Blanc, a detective investigating the sudden death of a family patriarch. 119 It premiered at the 2019 Toronto International Film Festival, and was theatrically released that November. 120 Knives Out earned critical praise and found success at the box office. 121 122 123 He earned a Golden Globe Awards nomination for his performance. 124 After experiencing delays due to the COVID-19 pandemic, Craig's fifth Bond film, No Time to Die, was released in September 2021, receiving favorable reviews. 125 126 Craig says No Time to Die was his last film as James Bond. 127 128 2 days before the film's release in the US, Craig was awarded a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame, which is located at 7007 Hollywood Boulevard, a reference to Bond's code number 007, and next to the star of fellow Bond actor Roger Moore. 129 2022, present, post-Bond work. Craig in Venice in 2024 for the premiere of Queer. In 2022, Craig starred in a contemporary revival of Macbeth opposite Ruth Negga on Broadway. Variety described his performance, writing, Craig has some strong moments but does not capture the transformation of Macbeth into a power-hungry tyrant. 130. The Guardian's Alexis Solosky rated the production 3/5, stating, Craig's burly Macbeth, clad handsomely in Sooty Rattler Labs modern dress costumes, is every inch a man of action and a soldier, even in a silky bathrobe, entirely convincing in motion, less persuasive when zipping through Macbeth's equivocations. 131. Craig also starred in Glass Onion, a sequel to Knives Out directed by Johnson. 132. In 2024, he starred as William Lee in Luca Guadagnino's adaptation of William S. Burroughs' novel Queer. 133 The film premiered at the 81st Venice International Film Festival. 134 Craig's performance was praised by critics. 135 136 137 138 139 Craig stated, the reason I wanted to get into cinema was because of movies like this. Scripts don't come around like this very often, directors don't come around like this very often. I didn't know what the end result would be, but I knew the journey was going to be something else. And that's really what appealed to me, to be working with such a wonderful person, the most creative and exciting people. 140. Craig will next star in a third Benoit Blanc film titled Wake Up Dead Man. 141 with Johnson to direct again. 142. Charity and humanitarian work. In 2007, Craig and British Prime Minister Tony Blair took part in the United Kingdom's comic relief charity fundraiser, ultimately raising more than $90 million. Craig made a cameo appearance as himself in a sketch with Catherine Tate, who appeared in the guise of her character Elaine Figgis from The Catherine Tate Show, for the BBC Red Nose Day 2007 fundraising program. 143 Craig participated in the Broadway Cares/Equity Fights AIDS fundraising December 8, 2009, raising $1,549,953 in the 21st annual Gypsy of the Year competition, from 6 weeks of curtain appeals at their hit Broadway drama, A Steady Rain. 144 Craig starred in 2011 in a short film narrated by Judi Dench, which was produced for International Women's Day. 145 The next year, Craig worked with Orbis International in Mongolia to raise support and awareness of the Orbis medical team and their Flying Eye Hospital. 146. He is involved with multiple charities including SAFE Kenya, which uses street theater to address social issues. 147 He is also involved with the Opportunity Network, which provides access to education for low-income students in New York. 148 In 2011, he collaborated with Dame Judi Dench to highlight gender inequality for International Women's Day. 149 In August 2014, he added his name to a letter to British broadcasters calling for better representation of ethnic minorities. 150 In 2015, Craig appeared in the film Comic Relief, Behind the Bond for the BBC Red Nose Day 2015 fundraising program. 151. In April 2015, the United Nations appointed Craig the first global advocate for the elimination of mines and explosive hazards. 152 The role involves raising awareness for the UN Mine Action Service, UNMAS, and political and financial support for the cause. Former UN Secretary-General Ban Ki-moon told Craig, "You have been given a license to kill, I'm now giving you a license to save." 152. In 2019, Craig appeared in a video with the Secretary-General of the United Nations, Antonio Guterres, and launched the UNMAS Safe Ground campaign to turn minefields into playing fields. 153. Political views. In 2012, Craig expressed a dislike and distrust for politics and politicians in general, being quoted as saying, "Politicians are shitheads. That's how they become politicians, even the good ones. We're actors, we're artists, we're very nice to each other. They'll turn around and stab you in the fucking back." 154 He was particularly scathing about former Labour Party Prime Minister Tony Blair, comparing the friends of Blair with the Faustian protagonist of Klaus Mann's anti-Nazi exiliterature novel Mephisto. Craig has also expressed a reluctance to involve himself with politicians, arguing that by doing so you immediately are aligning yourself with a political party. 155. Craig supported Barack Obama in the 2008 and 2012 U.S. presidential elections. 156. 157 He was outspoken about his opposition to Brexit before the 2016 EU membership referendum. In 2016, he was pictured wearing a Vote Remain t-shirt which was adorned with the words, "No man is an island. No country by itself." 158. Craig came out against the concept of inheritance in 2021, calling it distasteful. 159. 160 He claims his philosophy is get rid of it or give it away before you go. 161. Personal life. Admiral Sir Tony Radakin and Commander Daniel Craig, following Craig's appointment to the honorary Royal Navy rank of Commander in September 2021. In 1992, Craig married actress Fiona Loudon. They had a daughter, Ella, before divorcing in 1994. 162. 163 Ella Loudon is an actress and model who has publicly expressed pride in Craig's work. 164. Craig later began a relationship with German actress Heike Makich that lasted for 7 years until 2004. 162. 165 He subsequently dated film producer Satsuki Mitchell. 166. 162. Craig's friend Mark Strong speaks fluent German. 167. 168 and in 1997 provided the German dubbing for Craig's voice in Obsession when German with an English accent was required. 169 Strong and Craig previously lived together, became friends, and co-starred in the BBC drama Our Friends in the North. 170 Craig is also the godfather of Strong's son Roman. 171. Craig and actress Rachel Weisz had known each other since working together on Les Grandes Horizontales, 1994. 172 They began dating in December 2010, and were married in a private ceremony in New York City on June 22, 2011 with only 4 guests in attendance, including Craig's daughter and Weisz's son. 173. 174 It was reported on September 1, 2018 that their first child together, a daughter, had been born. 175. In January 2018, Craig purchased a house in Brooklyn, New York, for an amount in excess of $6 million. 176 He is an avid fan of Liverpool FC, and is also a fan of rugby, having travelled to Australia in 2013 to watch the British and Irish Lions tour. 177 In 2019, Craig announced he had obtained American citizenship. B179 He was made an honorary commander in the Royal Navy in September 2021, matching the on-screen rank of James Bond. 180 Craig was appointed Companion of the Order of St. Michael and St. George, CMG, in the 2022 New Year Honours for services to film and theatre, matching the CMG of James Bond. Dame Judith Olivia Dench, born December 9, 1934, is an English actress. Widely considered one of Britain's greatest actresses 1, 2, 3 She is noted for her versatility, having appeared in films and television, as well as for her numerous roles on the stage. 4 Dench has garnered various accolades throughout a career that spans 7 decades, including an Academy Award, a Tony Award, 2 Golden Globe Awards, 4 British Academy Television Awards, 6 British Academy Film Awards, and 7 Olivier Awards. Dench made her professional debut in 1957 with the Old Vic Company. Over the following few years she performed in several of Shakespeare's plays, in such roles as Ophelia in Hamlet, Juliet in Romeo and Juliet and Lady Macbeth in Macbeth. Although most of Dench's work during this period was in theatre, she also branched out into film work and won a BAFTA award as Most Promising Newcomer. In 1968, she drew excellent reviews for her leading role of Sally Bowles in the musical Cabaret. Over the next 2 decades Dench established herself as one of the most significant British theatre performers, working for the National Theatre Company and the Royal Shakespeare Company. Dench received critical acclaim for her work on television during this period, including her starring roles in the 2 romantic comedy series A Fine Romance, 1981 to 1984, ITV, and As Time Goes By, 1992 to 2005, BBC One. Her film appearances were infrequent, though included supporting roles in major films, such as James Ivory's A Room with a View, 1985, before she rose to international fame as M in GoldenEye, 1995, a role she went on to play in 8 James Bond films until her final cameo appearance in Spectre, 2015. An 8-time Academy Award nominee, Dench won the Academy Award for Best Supporting Actress for her performance as Queen Elizabeth I in Shakespeare in Love, 1998. Her other Oscar-nominated roles are for Mrs. Brown, 1997, Chocolate, 2000, Iris, 2001, Mrs. Henderson Presents, 2005, Notes on a Scandal, 2006, Philomena, 2013, and Belfast, 2021. She is also the recipient of several honorary awards, including the BAFTA Fellowship Award, the Society of London Theatre Special Award, and the British Film Institute Fellowship Award. Early life, ancestry, and education. Dench was born in the Haworth area of York on 9 December 1934, 5/6, the daughter of an English father and an Irish mother. Her father, Reginald Arthur Dench MC and Bar, 1897 to 1964, was a doctor from Dorset who grew up primarily in Dublin and who fought on the Western Front in the First World War. 7/8 Her mother, Eleanora Olive, née Jones, 1897 to 1983, was born in Dublin, and her parents met while studying at Trinity College Dublin. 9/10. In October 2021, Dench was the subject of BBC One's Who Do You Think You Are?, where it was revealed that she is descended from the Billy family of Danish aristocrats, and Steen Andersen Billy, 1624 to 1698, the illegitimate son of Anders Steensen Billida, 1578 to 1633, 11, as well as Claus Billy, 1490 to 1558, a grandfather of Danish astronomer Tycho Brahe, 1546 to 1601, member of the Danish noble Brahe family. She is a cousin of Greek-Australian actors Rebecca Elmaloglu and Sebastian Elmaloglu. 12 Her niece, Emma Dench, is an historian of ancient Rome. 13. Dench attended the Mount School, a Quaker independent secondary school in York, and became a Quaker. 1415 she had two elder brothers named Peter Dench, Dr., 1925 to 2017, and Jeffrey, 1928 to 2014, the latter of whom also became an actor. 1415. Through her parents, Dench had regular contact with the theatre. Her father was the GP for York Theatre Royal, and her mother was its wardrobe mistress. 16 actors often stayed in the Dench household. During these years, Judi Dench was involved on a non-professional basis in the first three productions of the modern revival of the York Mystery Plays in 1951, 1954, and 1957. 17 in the third production she played the role of the Virgin Mary, performed on a fixed stage in the museum gardens. 18. Though she initially trained as a set designer, Dench became interested in drama school as her brother Jeff attended the Central School of Speech and Drama. 16 She was also inspired by seeing Peggy Ashcroft play Cleopatra on stage, which she later said changed my life. 19 She applied and was accepted by the Central School 20 then based at the Royal Albert Hall, London, where she was a classmate of Vanessa Redgrave, graduating and being awarded 4 acting prizes, including the gold medal as outstanding student. 16. Career. This section of a biography of a living person needs additional citations for verification. Please help by adding reliable sources. Contentious material about living persons that is unsourced or poorly sourced must be removed immediately from the article and its talk page, especially if potentially libelous. Find sources: Judi Dench, News Newspapers Book Scholar Jester, March 2023, learn how and when to remove this message. 1957 to 1969, National Theatre. Dench during an Old Vic tour at Belgrade, Serbia, in 1959. Dench made her first professional stage appearance in September 1957 with the Old Vic Company at the Royal Court Theatre in Liverpool, as Ophelia in Hamlet. According to the reviewer for London Evening Standard, Dench had talent which will be shown to better advantage when she acquires some technique to go with it. 21. Dench then made her London debut in the same production at the Old Vic. She remained a member of the company for 4 seasons, 1957 to 1961, her roles including Catherine in Henry V in 1958, which was also her New York City debut, and Juliet in Romeo and Juliet in 1960, both directed and designed by Franco Zeffirelli. During this period, Dench toured the United States and Canada and appeared in Yugoslavia and at the Edinburgh Festival. 22 She joined the Royal Shakespeare Company in December 1961, playing Anya in the Cherry Orchard at the Aldwych Theatre in London, and made her Stratford-upon-Avon debut in April 1962 as Isabella in Measure for Measure. She subsequently spent seasons in repertory both with the Playhouse in Nottingham from January 1963, including a West African tour as Lady Macbeth for the British Council, and with the Playhouse Company in Oxford from April 1964. In 1960, Dench appeared on television as Anna in the very last episode, Treviso Dam, of the TV series The Four Just Men, in 1964 as Valentine Wanop in Theatre 625's adaptation of Parade's End, shown in 3 episodes, and also played a juvenile troublemaker in an episode of the police series Z Cars. That same year, she made her film debut in The Third Secret, before featuring in a small role in the Sherlock Holmes thriller A Study in Terror, 1965, with her Nottingham Playhouse colleague John Neville. 23 She performed again in Theatre 625 in 1966, as Terry in the 4-part series Talking to a Stranger, for which she won a BAFTA for Best Actress. 24-25 The 1966 BAFTA Award for Most Promising Newcomer to Leading Film Roles was made to Dench for her performance in 4 in the Morning, and this was followed in 1968 by a BAFTA Best Actress Award for her role in John Hopkins' 1966 BBC drama Talking to a Stranger. 26. In 1968, she was offered the role of Sally Bowles in the musical Cabaret. As Sheridan Morley later reported, at first she thought they were joking. She had never done a musical and she has an unusual croaky voice which sounds as if she has a permanent cold. So frightened was she of singing in public that she auditioned from the wings, leaving the pianists alone on stage. 27 But when it opened at the Palace Theatre in February 1968, Frank Marcus, reviewing for Plays and Players, commented that, "She sings well." The title song, in particular, is projected with great feeling. 1970 to 1989, rise to prominence. Dench's first collaboration with Kenneth Branagh was in Henry V, 1989. After a long run in cabaret, Dench rejoined the RSC, making numerous appearances with the company in Stratford and London for nearly 20 years, winning several Best Actress awards. Among her roles with the RSC, she was the Duchess in John Webster's The Duchess of Malfi in 1971. In the Stratford 1976 season, and then at the Aldwych in 1977, she gave 2 comedy performances, first in Trevor Nunn's musical staging of The Comedy of Errors as Adriana, then partnered with Donald Sinden as Beatrice and Benedict in John Barton's British Raj revival of Much Ado About Nothing. As Bernard Levin wrote in the Sunday Times, demonstrating once more that she is a comic actress of consummate skill, perhaps the very best we have. 28. One of her most notable achievements with the RSC was her performance as Lady Macbeth in 1976. Nunn's acclaimed production of Macbeth was first staged with a minimalist design at the Other Place Theatre in Stratford. Its small round stage focused attention on the psychological dynamics of the characters, and both Ian McKellen in the title role, and Dench, received exceptionally favorable notices. "If this is not great acting, I don't know what is," wrote Michael Billington in The Guardian. "It will astonish me if the performance is matched by any in this actress's generation," commented J.C. Trewin in The Lady. The production transferred to London, opening at the Donmar Warehouse in September 1977, and was adapted for television, later released on VHS and DVD. Dench won the SWET Best Actress Award in 1977. Dench was nominated for a BAFTA for her role as Hazel Wiles in the 1979 BBC drama On Giant's Shoulders. 29 She had a romantic role in the BBC television film Langrish, Go Down, 1978, with Jeremy Irons and a screenplay by Harold Pinter from the Aidan Higgins novel, directed by David Jones, in which she played one of 3 spinster sisters living in a fading Irish mansion in the County Waterford countryside. Dench made her debut as a director in 1988 with the Renaissance Theatre Company's touring season, Renaissance Shakespeare on the Road, co-produced with the Birmingham Rep, and ending with a 3-month repertory program at the Phoenix Theatre in London. Dench's contribution was a staging of Much Ado About Nothing, set in the Napoleonic era, which starred Kenneth Branagh and Emma Thompson as Benedict and Beatrice. She has made numerous appearances in the West End, including the role of Miss Trant in the 1974 musical The Good Companions at Her Majesty's Theatre. In 1981, Dench was due to play Grisabella in the original production of Cats, but was forced to pull out due to a torn Achilles tendon, leaving Elaine Page to play the role. 30. From 1981 to 1984, Dench starred in Britain's BAFTA award-winning A Fine Romance with her husband Michael Williams. In 1987, Dench played a supporting role in Columbia Pictures' film 84, Charing Cross Road with Anne Bancroft and Anthony Hopkins. The film dramatizes a delightful and tender correspondence, of the same title, between American writer Helene Hanff and British bookshop manager Frank Dole, which began after World War II, in 1949, and ended in 1969. She also acted with the National Theatre in London, where she played Cleopatra in Antony and Cleopatra, 1987. In 1989, she appeared in David Tucker's Behaving Badly for Channel 4, based on Catherine Heath's novel of the same name. That same year, she was cast as Prue Forrest, the longtime silent wife of Tom Forrest, in the BBC soap opera The Archers on its 10,000th edition. 31. 1990s, established actress. Dench portrayed Queen Victoria in Mrs. Brown, 1997, and Victoria and Abdul, 2017. After a long gap in the series of James Bond films following License to Kill, 1989, in GoldenEye, 1995, the producers brought in Dench to take over as the role of M, James Bond's boss. The character was reportedly modeled on Dame Stella Rymington, the real-life head of MI5 between 1992 and 1996. 32-33 Dench became the first woman to portray M, succeeding Robert Brown. 34-35 the 17th spy film in the series and the first to star Pierce Brosnan as the fictional MI6 officer. GoldenEye marked the first Bond film made after the dissolution of the Soviet Union and the end of the Cold War, which provided the plot's backstory. The film earned a worldwide gross of $350 million 36 with critics viewing the film as a modernization of the series. 37-38 She also starred in BBC One's As Time Goes By, a romantic comedy. Several series of the show were made between 1992 and 2005. In 1995, she played Desiree Armfeldt in a major revival of Stephen Sondheim's A Little Night Music, for which she won an Olivier Award. In 1997, Dench appeared in her first starring film role as Queen Victoria in John Madden's teleplay Mrs. Brown, which depicts Victoria's relationship with her personal servant and favorite John Brown, played by Billy Connolly. Filmed with the intention of being shown on BBC One and on WGBH's Masterpiece Theatre, it was eventually acquired by Miramax mogul Harvey Weinstein. Released to generally positive reviews and unexpected commercial success, going on to earn more than $13 million worldwide. 39 The film was screened in the Uncertain Regards section at the 1997 Cannes Film Festival. 40 For her performance, Dench garnered universal acclaim by critics and was awarded her fourth BAFTA and first Best Actress nomination at the 70th Academy Awards. 41 In 2011, while accepting a British Film Institute Award in London, Dench commented that the project launched her Hollywood career and joked that it was thanks to Harvey, whose name I have had tattooed on my bum. 42-43. Dench's other film of 1997 was Roger Spottiswoode's Tomorrow Never Dies, her second film in the James Bond series. 44-45 The same year, Dench re-teamed with director John Madden to film Shakespeare in Love, 1998, a romantic comedy drama that depicts a love affair involving playwright William Shakespeare, played by Joseph Fiennes, while he was writing the play Romeo and Juliet. On her performance as Queen Elizabeth I, the New York Times commented that Dench's shrewd, daunting Elizabeth is one of the film's utmost treats. 46 The following year, she was nominated for most of the high-profile awards, winning both the Academy Award and the BAFTA Award for Best Actress in a Supporting Role. 41 On her Oscar win, Dench joked on stage, "I feel for 8 minutes on the screen, I should only get a little bit of him." 47. Also in 1999, Dench won the Tony Award for her 1999 Broadway performance in the role of Esme Allen in Sir David Hare's Amy's View. 41 The same year, she co-starred along with Cher, Joan Plowright, Maggie Smith, and Lily Tomlin in Franco Zeffirelli's semi-autobiographical period drama Tea with Mussolini, which tells the story of young Italian boy Luca's upbringing by a circle of British and American women, before and during World War II. 1999 also saw the release of Pierce Brosnan's third Bond film, The World Is Not Enough. This film portrayed M in a larger role, with the villain, Renard, coming back to haunt her when he engineers the murder of her old friend Sir Robert King and seemingly attempts to kill his daughter Electra. 2000s, continued acclaim. Wax statue of Dench as M at Madame Tussauds, London. In January 2001, Dench's husband Michael Williams died of lung cancer. Dench went to Newfoundland in Canada almost immediately after his funeral to begin production on Lasse Hallström's drama film The Shipping News, a therapy she later credited as her rescue. People, friends, kept saying, "You are not facing up to it, you need to face up to it," and maybe they were right, but I felt I was, in the acting. Grief supplies you with an enormous amount of energy. I needed to use that up. 48. In between, Dench finished work on Richard Eyre's film Iris, 2001, in which she portrayed novelist Iris Murdoch. Dench shared her role with Kate Winslet, both actresses portraying Murdoch at different phases of her life. 49. Each of them was nominated for an Oscar the following year, earning Dench her 4th nomination in 5 years. 41. In addition, she was awarded both an ALPS Award and the Best Leading Actress Award at the 55th British Academy Film Awards. 41. After Iris, Dench immediately returned to Canada to finish The Shipping News alongside Kevin Spacey and Julianne Moore. 48. Based on the Pulitzer Prize-winning novel by Eon Productions, the drama revolves around a quiet and introspective typesetter, Spacey, who, after the death of his daughter's mother, moves to Newfoundland along with his daughter and his aunt, played by Dench, in hopes of starting his life anew in the small town where she grew up. The film earned mixed reviews from critics. 50 and was financially unsuccessful, taking in just $24 million worldwide with a budget of $35 million. 51. Dench received BAFTA and SAG Award nominations for her performance. 41. In 2002, Dench was cast opposite Rupert Everett, Colin Firth, and Reese Witherspoon in Oliver Parker's The Importance of Being Earnest, a comedy about mistaken identity set in English high society during the Victorian era. Based on Oscar Wilde's classic comedy of manners of the same name, she portrayed Lady Bracknell, a role she had repeatedly played before, including a stint at the Royal National Theatre in 1982. 52. The film was released to lukewarm reactions by critics, who called it breezy entertainment, helped by an impressive cast, but felt that it also suffered from some peculiar directorial choices, and earned just $17.3 million during its limited release. 53. Dench's other film of 2002 was Die Another Day, the 20th installment in the James Bond series. The spy film, directed by Lee Tamahori, marked her 4th appearance as MI6 head M and the franchise's last performance by Pierce Brosnan as Bond. Die Another Day received mixed reviews. 54. 55. Regardless, it became the highest-grossing James Bond film up to that time. 56. In the 2002 animated children's series Angelina Ballerina, Dench lent her voice to Miss Lily, Angelina's ballet teacher, and her daughter, Finty Williams, provided the voice of Angelina herself. Citation needed. In 2004, Dench appeared as Arian, an ambassador of the elemental race who helps uncover the mysterious past of Richard B. Riddick, played by Vin Diesel, in David Twohy's science fiction sequel The Chronicles of Riddick. Selected by Diesel, who prompted writers to recreate the character to fit a female persona because he wanted to work with the actress. 57. She called filming tremendous fun, although she had absolutely no idea what was going on in the plot. 58. The film was a critical and box office failure. 59. In his review of the film, James Berardinelli from Real Views remarked that he felt that Dench's character served no more useful purpose than to give her an opportunity to appear in a science fiction movie. 60. She followed Riddick with a more traditional role in Charles Dance's English drama Ladies in Lavender, also starring friend Maggie Smith. In the film, Dench plays one half of a sister duo and takes it upon herself to nurse a washed-up stranger to health, eventually finding herself falling for a man many decades younger than she. The specialty release garnered positive reviews from critics, with Roger Ebert of the Chicago Sun-Times calling it perfectly sweet and civilized and a pleasure to watch Smith and Dench together. Their acting is so natural it could be breathing. 61. Also in 2004, Dench provided her voice for several smaller projects. In Walt Disney's Home on the Range, she, along with Roseanne Barr and Jennifer Tilly, voiced a mismatched trio of dairy cows who must capture an infamous cattle rustler, for his bounty, in order to save their idyllic farm from foreclosure. The film was mildly successful for Disney. 62. A major hit for Dench came with Joe Wright's Pride and Prejudice, a 2005 adaptation of the novel by Jane Austen, starring Keira Knightley and Donald Sutherland. 63 Wright persuaded Dench to join the cast as Lady Catherine de Bourgh by writing her a letter that read, "I love it when you play a bitch. Please come and be a bitch for me." 64. Dench had only 1 week available to shoot her scenes, forcing Wright to make them his first days of filming. 65-66 With both a worldwide gross of over $121 million and several Academy Award and Golden Globe nominations, the film became a critical and commercial success. 67. Dench, in her role as M, was the only cast member carried through from the Brosnan films to appear in Casino Royale, 2006, Martin Campbell's reboot of the James Bond film series, starring Daniel Craig in his debut performance as the fictional MI6 agent. The thriller received largely positive critical response, with reviewers highlighting Craig's performance and the reinvention of the character of Bond. 68 It earned over $594 million worldwide, ranking it among the highest-grossing James Bond films ever released. Also in April 2006, Dench returned to the West End stage in Hay Fever alongside Peter Bowles, Kim Metcalfe, and Belinda Lang. She finished off 2006 with the role of Mistress Quickly in the RSC's new musical The Merry Wives, a version of The Merry Wives of Windsor. 69. Dench attending the premiere of Notes on a Scandal at the 2007 Berlin International Film Festival. Dench appeared opposite Cate Blanchett as a London teacher with a dedicated fondness for vulnerable women in Richard Eyre's 2006 drama film Notes on a Scandal, an adaptation from the 2003 novel of the same name by Zoe Heller. A fan of Heller's book, Dench was thrilled to be asked to play that woman, to try to find a humanity in that dreadful person. 70 The specialty film opened to generally positive reviews and commercial success, grossing $50 million worldwide, 71 exceeding its £15 million budget. 72 In his review for Chicago Sun-Times, Roger Ebert declared the main actresses perhaps the most impressive acting duo in any film of 2006. Dench and Blanchett are magnificent. 73. The following year, Dench earned her 6th Academy nomination and went on to win a British Independent Film Award and an Evening Standard Award. 41 Dench, as Miss Mattie Jenkins, co-starred with Eileen Atkins, Michael Gambon, Imelda Stanton, and Francesca Annis in the BBC One 5-part series Cranford. The first season of the series began transmission in November 2007. In the same year Dench narrated Go Inside to Greet the Light, a film about the spiritual experience of Quaker meetings for worship in James Turrell's Deer Shelter Sky Space. 74. Dench became the voice for the narration for the updated Walt Disney World Epcot attraction Spaceship Earth in February 2008. 75 The same month, she was named as the first official patron of the York Youth Mysteries 2008, a project to allow young people to explore the York Mystery Plays through dance, filmmaking, and circus. 76 Her only film of 2008 was Mark Forster's Quantum of Solace, the 22nd Eon-produced James Bond film, in which she reprised her role as M along with Daniel Craig. A direct sequel to the 2006 film Casino Royale, Forster felt Dench was underused in the previous films, and wanted to make her part bigger, having her interact with Bond more. 77 The project received mixed reviews from critics, who mainly felt that Quantum of Solace was not as impressive as the predecessor Casino Royale. 78 But became another hit for the franchise with a worldwide gross of $591 million. 79 For her performance, Dench was nominated for a Saturn Award the following year. 80. Dench returned to the West End in mid-2009, playing Madame de Montreal in Yukio Mishima's play Madame de Sada, directed by Michael Grandage as part of the Donmar season at Wyndham's Theatre. 81 The same year, she appeared in Sally Potter's experimental film Rage, a project that featured 14 actors playing fictional figures in and around the fashion world, giving monologues before a plain backdrop. 82 Attracted to the fact that it was unlike anything she had done before, Dench welcomed the opportunity to work with Potter. 82 I like to do something that's not expected, or predictable. I had to learn to smoke a joint, and I set my trousers alight, she said about filming. 82 Her next film was Rob Marshall's musical film 9, based on Arthur Kopit's book for the 1982 musical of the same name, itself suggested by Federico Fellini's semi-autobiographical film 8 1/2. 83 Also starring Daniel Day-Lewis, Marion Cotillard, Penelope Cruz, and Sophia Loren, she played Lily Loeffler, an eccentric but motherly French costume designer, who performs the song Folies Bergère in the film. 9 was nominated for 4 Academy Awards 84 and awarded both the Satellite Award for Best Film and Best Cast. 41 Also in 2009, Dench reprised the role of Matilda Jenkins in Return to Cranford, the 2-part second season of a Simon Curtis television series. Critically acclaimed, Dench was nominated for a Golden Globe Award, a Primetime Emmy Award, and a Satellite Award. 41. 2010s. In 2010, Dench renewed her collaboration with Peter Hall at the Rose Theatre in Kingston upon Thames in A Midsummer Night's Dream, which opened in February 2010. She played Titania as Queen Elizabeth I in her later years, almost 50 years after she first played the role for the Royal Shakespeare Company. 85 In July 2010, Dench performed Send in the Clowns at a special celebratory promenade concert from the Royal Albert Hall as part of the prom season, in honor of composer Stephen Sondheim's 80th birthday. 86-87. In 2011, Dench starred in Jane Eyre, My Week with Marilyn and J. Edgar. In Kari Hojifa Konaga's period drama Jane Eyre, based on the 1847 novel of the same name by Charlotte Bronte, she played the role of Alice Fairfax, housekeeper to Rochester, the aloof and brooding master of Thornfield Hall, where main character Jane, played by Mia Wasikowska, gets employed as a governess. 88 Dench reportedly signed to the project after she had received a humorous personal note from Fukunaga, in which he promised her that she'd be the sexiest woman on set if she did the film. 89 Acclaimed among critics. 90 It was a mediocre Arthu's success at the box office, grossing $30.5 million worldwide. 91 In Simon Curtis' My Week with Marilyn, which depicts the making of the 1957 film The Prince and the Showgirl starring Marilyn Monroe and Laurence Olivier, Dench played actress Sybil Thorndike. The film garnered largely positive reviews. 92 And earned Dench a Best Actress in a Supporting Role nomination at the 65th BAFTA Awards. 93. Dench's last film of 2011 was Clint Eastwood's J. Edgar, a biographical drama film about the career of FBI Director J. Edgar Hoover, played by Leonardo DiCaprio, from the Palmer raids onwards, including an examination of his private life as a closeted homosexual. 94 Handpicked by Eastwood to play Anna Marie Hoover, Hoover's mother, Dench initially thought a friend was setting her up upon receiving Eastwood's phone call request. I didn't take it seriously to start with. And then I realized it was really him, and that was a tricky conversation, she stated. 70 Released to mixed reception, both with critics and commercially, the film went on to gross $79 million worldwide. 95 The same year, Dench reunited with Rob Marshall and Johnny Depp for a cameo appearance in Pirates of the Caribbean, on Stranger Tides, playing a noblewoman who is robbed by Captain Jack Sparrow, played by Depp. She made a second cameo that year in Ray Cooney's Run for Your Wife. 96. In 2011, Dench reunited with director John Madden on the set of the comedy drama The Best Exotic Marigold Hotel, 2012, starring an ensemble cast also consisting of Celia Imrie, Bill Nighy, Ronald Pickup, Maggie Smith, Tom Wilkinson, and Penelope Wilton, as a group of British pensioners moving to a retirement hotel in India, run by the young and eager Sunny Dev Patel. Released to positive reviews by critics. 97 Who declared the film a sweet story about the senior set featuring a top-notch cast of veteran actors. 97 It became a surprise box office hit following its international release, eventually grossing $134 million worldwide, mostly from its domestic run. 98 Best Exotic Marigold Hotel was ranked among the highest grossing specialty releases of the year 99, and Dench, whom Peter Travers from Rolling Stone called resilient Marvel, 100 garnered a Best Actress nod at both the British Independent Film Awards and Golden Globe Awards. 101. Dench with Skyfall co-star Ben Whishaw at the Noel Coward Theatre in 2013. Also in 2012, Friend Request Pending, an indie short film which Dench had filmed in 2011, received a wide release as part of the feature film Stars in Shorts, Camden Clock Dancing Nelson Mills by Pat Tracy, and The Joy of Six. In the 12-minute comedy, directed by My Week with Marilyn assistant director Chris Foggin on a budget of just £5,000, she portrays a pensioner grappling with a crush on her church choirmaster and the art of cyber-flirting via social networking. 102 Dench made her 7th and final appearance as M in the 23rd James Bond film, Skyfall, 2012, 103 directed by Sam Mendes. 104 In the film, Bond investigates an attack on MI6, it transpires that it is part of an attack on M by former MI6 operative Raoul Silva, played by Javier Bardem, to humiliate, discredit, and kill M as revenge against her for betraying him. Dench's position as M was subsequently filled by Ralph Fiennes' character. Coinciding with the 50th anniversary of the James Bond series, Skyfall was positively received by critics and at the box office, grossing over $1 billion worldwide, and became the highest-grossing film of all time in the UK and the highest-grossing film in the James Bond series. Critics called Dench's Saturn Awards-nominated performance compellingly luminous. 105. In 2013, Dench starred as the title character in the Stephen Frears-directed film Philomena, which was inspired by true events of a woman looking for the son whom, half a century earlier, the Catholic Church had taken from her. 106 The film was screened in the main competition section at the 70th Venice International Film Festival, where it was very favorably received by critics. 107-108 On Dench's performance, Time magazine commented that this is Dench's triumph. At 78, she has a golden career behind her, often as queens and other frosty matriarchs. So the warmth under pressure she radiates here is nearly a surprise. Dench gives a performance of grace, nuance, and cinematic heroism. 109. She was subsequently nominated for many major acting awards, including a 7th Oscar nomination. 110. In 2015, Dench appeared opposite Dustin Hoffman in Dear Beitla Walsh's small-screen adaptation of Roald Dahl's children's novel Egeo Trot, 1990, in which a retired bachelor falls in love with his widowed neighbor, played by Dench, who keeps a tortoise as a companion after the death of her husband. 111 First broadcast on BBC One on New Year's Day 2015, it became one of the most watched programs of the week. 112 and earned Dench her first Best Actress nomination at the 2016 International Emmy Awards. 113 On her performance, Telegraph's Michael Hogan commented, "We've grown accustomed to seeing Dench in forbidding roles, but here, she recalled her footloose, flirtatious side, displayed in sitcoms as a fine romance, and as time goes by, the dame was sparkly and downright ravishing." 114. Dench at St. Paul's Covent Garden in 2015. As with most of the original cast, Dench reprised the role of Evelyn in John Madden's The Second Best Exotic Marigold Hotel, 2015, the sequel to the 2011 sleeper hit. The comedy drama was released to lukewarm reviews from critics, who found it as original as its title, but with a cast this talented and effortlessly charming, that hardly matters. 115 From April to May 2015, Dench played a mother, with her real-life daughter Finty Williams playing her character's daughter, in The Vote at the Donmar Warehouse. 116 The final performance was broadcast live on More 4 at 8:25 p.m., the time when the events in the play take place. 116 The appearance marked her first performance at the theater since 1976. 117 On September 20, 2015, she was the guest on BBC Radio 4's Desert Island Discs for the third time, in which she revealed that her first acting performance was as a snail. 118 She reprised her role as M in the 2015 James Bond film Spectre, in the form of a recording that was delivered to Bond. In 2016, Dench made Olivier Award history when she won Best Actress in a Supporting Role for her role as Paulina in The Winter's Tale, breaking her own record with her 8th win as a performer. 119 Next, she co-starred as Cecily Neville, Duchess of York to Benedict Cumberbatch's Richard III in the second series of the BBC Two historical series The Hollow Crown. 120 The same year, she was cast alongside Eva Green and Asa Butterfield in Tim Burton's dark fantasy film Miss Peregrine's Home for Peculiar Children. Dench played Miss Esmeralda Avocet, a headmistress who can manipulate time and can transform into a bird. 121 The film garnered mixed reviews from critics, who felt it was on stronger footing as a visual experience than a narrative one. 122 Budgeted on $110 million, it became a commercial hit, grossing nearly $300 million worldwide. 123. Dench's first film of 2017 was Justin Chadwick's Tulip Fever, alongside Alicia Vikander and Christoph Waltz. 124 Set during the period of the Tulip Mania, the historical drama follows a 17th-century painter in Amsterdam who falls in love with a married woman whose portrait he has been hired to paint. Filmed in 2014, the film went through several delays and earned largely negative reviews from critics, who called it a handsomely mounted period piece undone by uninspired dialogue and excessive plotting. 125 Also in 2017, Dench reprised the role of Queen Victoria when she headlined Stephen Frears's Victoria and Abdul. 126 The biographical comedy drama depicts the real-life relationship between the monarch and her Indian Muslim servant Abdul Karim, played by opposite Ali Fazal. While the film was met with lukewarm reviews for its imbalanced narrative, Dench earned specific praise for her performance. 127 Earning the actress her 12th Golden Globe nomination. 128. In September 2017, the website LAD Bible posted a video of Dench rapping with UK grime MC Lethal Bizzle. The collaboration came about because the slang term Dench, which is used as a compliment, features in Bizzle's lyrics and on his clothing brand Stay Dench, which Dench had previously helped to promote. 129 130 Dench's last film that year was Kenneth Branagh's Murder on the Orient Express, based on the 1934 novel of the same name by Agatha Christie. 131 The mystery, drama ensemble film follows world-renowned detective Hercule